Harassed, detained, or sometimes medicated against their will. Those are just some of the trials facing members of the LGBTQ community in China.
And now a new documentary from Fusion called The Naked Truth, a China Queer, is examining what it's like to be gay in China and how activists are working for change. Here's a preview.
Chiang couldn't believe it when he heard a gay man was being held against his will in a mental hospital.
那在这个20多天当中，这个医生是强制让他用这个精神科的精神病药物的。他刚开始的时候是想不吃这个药的，但是他如果不吃的话，可能会这个强制的那些护工可能要掰开他的嘴，然后把喂他药。
After hearing the shocking recording, made available only to Fusion, he dropped everything and took a 7-hour train to the small city of Zhumadian.
我请的是一个公益机构，可以救你出来。我都问你去医院，医生诊断你是啥子？
性偏好障碍。
确定呗？
确定。
这不是疾病啊。
On arrival, Chiang immediately called the police and a lawyer.
再按照我的这个分析，我觉得一个成年男人被老婆和家人送到精神病院，这种事情我就觉得不太可能发生的事情。
The lawyer agreed it was extreme and illegal. So he went inside the hospital asking to see Yuhu.
我们也告诉他很清楚，如果当事人不是自愿的话，是不可以的，你没有权利关他的，甚至说你关他就是违法的。
Yuhu told the hospital doctor that he was being kept against his will and he wanted to leave. He was discharged that same afternoon, despite the protestations of his wife. He'd been married to her for 10 years, pretending to be straight.
And Omar Sharif Jr. is an ambassador for the Human Rights Foundation and former national spokesperson for GLAAD. He's also the narrator of the documentary, joins us now. Wow, 2 years of reporting behind this. How did you get involved?
You know, I got a call from the Human Rights Campaign, and they said, you know, they're making this incredible documentary over at Fusion, and it's Pride Month, and Pride has to be more than a celebration. It has to be a call to awareness and action. And I think this documentary accomplishes just that. It brings a U.S. audience some awareness to some global LGBT issues.
The documentary features a woman who is in a Xinhuan marriage. Can you explain for our viewer what that is?
Sure. You know, I learned about this while making the documentary as well. And a Xinhuan marriage is when a lesbian couple and a gay couple sort of come together, and the two opposite sex individuals get married for their families so that their families can have a wedding and celebrate that, because family traditions are really important in China. So even if they're accepting of their families and of their LGBT family members, they still want to have this sort of big wedding to show their neighbors and friends and so forth.
I mean, are their neighbors and friends aware of what's really happening?
They're not. It's
so
like
this
this
is
entirely fake marriage.
So it's a way to, in some ways, cover up the identity of these lesbian and gay couples and make it seem like they're in hetero marriages?
That's correct. And so we follow this couple, E and O. You know, great names. I mean, can I buy a vowel, Vanna? And so they follow them, and we sort of see what it's like from their perspective, and one of them plays the other one's bridesmaid, when really they're the ones in love, and so it's fascinating.
I just can't imagine living life this way. Is there any good news, any sort of reforms for the LGBTQ community in China?
You know what, there really isn't, and it's a two-pronged problem. Number one is government policies, whereby the government is really actively discouraging LGBT visibility and acceptance. And on the second hand is this 4,000-year-old culture that's really based on tradition, and it's a very non-accepting environment because of that.
Omar, did the Chinese government, have they had any response to this documentary?
We reached out, and they haven't. You know, we showed them some terrible footage of conversion therapy camps, of films being banned, of things coming off the internet. We asked, why is this happening?
So when
Silence.
you're talking about this issue, Omar, you were the spokesperson for GLAAD. I mean, what can be done? What can people do to help?
You know, I think the first step is raising awareness and sharing stories, and that's what this documentary accomplishes. The great thing right now is, even with government censorship, there's all forms of new media out there. And if we could share our stories on Twitter, on Facebook, we could grow acceptance. People realize we're more than just facts, figures, statistics, moral and ethical debates, but we're just brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, neighbors, coworkers. That's the LGBT community that we celebrate this Pride.
Yeah, ultimately it's a human rights issue.
It sure is.
Omar Sharif Jr., thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
The documentary is called The Naked Truth, China Queer. It premieres Sunday, June 26th at 9 p.m. on Fusion TV.